It's finally here. Dart Zone was nice enough to send me out an early sample of the Adventure Force Brute Pro. Henshin! Because the Adventure Force Brute Pro is an off-the-shelf, cheaper version of the Dart Zone Pro Mark II, 2.1, and a bunch of other blasters that kind of fall into the same realm as this. Yes, much like this piece of junk. But this does have one cool thing going for it. Slamfire and a compact package, which I am a fan of both those things. Shoots up to 140 feet with Slamfire. 12 half-length darts. I wear inside one pair, and includes 2 6-round short dart magazines. And you know, sometimes you may want a smaller mag. It also includes the plastic SCAR, which stands for string centering auto rifling. I almost wonder if we should redo that to like self-centering auto rifling or something like that. I don't know. But this thing basically has grooves on it, so when the dart exits the barrel, the foam catches those grooves and spins it, stabilizing it in fight and thus increasing your accuracy. And many of you will notice it is a pistol form factor, mag in grip at that. But this doesn't exactly equate to a sidearm because you need to have 2 hands to use it. You know, top slide prime. And for those of you saying, well, that's dumb, I want one that I can use one hand and I can dual wield it. Well, take your pick. These are 2 off-the-shelf options you can pick up at your local Target, or you can buy them off Dart Zone's website. One of them is a flywheeler that costs about 50 bucks. The other is a hammer action that'll cost you about 30. So this is not meant to be those. Getting a good look at it, it is a pretty big blaster. It seemed like it would be a lot smaller, but this is a heck of a lot bigger than the Dart Zone Pro Mark II. That wasn't dangerous. Standard Adventure Force Pro darts. And our 2 tiny and cute 6-round mags. Those are adorable. Our iPro and instructions. These are, I mean, they might not be the same, but they look and feel the same. These are important because these blasters hit pretty hard. If you take one of those darts to the eye, you might not be happy. So where exactly will the Brute Pro fit in if Dart Zone has already made a flywheeler and Springer sidearm? Well, this little guy will probably fit into the secondary role, so you have something to swap to, compact, slam fire for room clearing, which, if the slam fire is really good and not overly strong, that would be nice. Or the compact primary role, because really there's no reason why you couldn't. It's mag fed, you can probably take down a lot of other players with this thing, so it has some potential. Starting off with the front of the blaster, we do have this quite extended muzzle here, which is where your SCAR will go into. Ooh, that doesn't work that way. Wait, how that, what? Okay. I mean, it shows it going in like this. That is not very well in there. So let's assume mine's a lemon, but let's check the instructions. Push the narrow end of the accuracy booster threaded SCAR into the muzzle. It is a friction fit. Well, before we think the blaster is off all here, let me grab another one of these because I have a few of them now. Looking at this, the new one is a darker orange plastic. I have a few of these, so let's see if this one fits in there. Yeah, that fit fine. So, yeah, that's a problem, Dart Zone. I hope that's not a widespread one. Next up, we got the original worker one, which the Dart Zone one is based off of, and that works fine. And then we've got Dart Zone's own B-car, which is the same idea, except for it uses bearings instead of like strings or anything, and yeah, that fits in there perfectly. And honestly, these are usually your best bet. So that's not good. We'll use a different one for right now. We've got a short Picatinny rail down here at the bottom, longer Picatinny rail up here at the top, our priming slide right here, which does have different color molded iron sights on it, which is really nice. I'll test to see if those are useful at all. On the back here, we've got a plug that's held in with a Phillips screw. I think we can guess what that's gonna do. We'll check that out a little bit later. Our grip right here, our mag release is only on one side of the blaster, and it is very recessed and very stiff. Let's take one of our 6-round mags, put this in there, sits up like that. Yeah, it works. It's a little bit awkward, but it does prevent you from accidentally hitting it. We've also got a crossbolt safety right here, which is very stiff, but it does block your trigger from moving back. Trigger is a standard slide back trigger. It is a little sticky, but that might fix itself over time. Also, these are clearly M-LOK slots, which is kind of cool. And then you've got this painted detail all over the side of the blaster that makes it look like some kind of futuristic thing. And the grip is rather large. It does thin out a little bit towards the top for your trigger finger, but even with my small hands, I don't really have a problem. But this part right here, because that is so thick, it's not the most comfortable thing ever. With this, we just take our 6. Wow, this dart is absolutely dead. What the heck? That is one of the new ones. This dart looks like it's been really, really used. I'm gonna put you off to the side. You're special. The rest of these, I don't know what was going on there. And the mag will definitely hold 7, maybe even 8 if you're really pressed on it. Put that in there, all good to go. The priming weight is gonna matter a lot with this one, so I'm hoping out of the box it's reasonably light. Oh, that is pretty hefty. So pulling that back, dart will pop up out of the mag, push it forward, it will push that dart into the barrel, and when I pull the trigger, that's gonna lower the catch, the plunger rod is gonna slam forward in the plunger tube, and that's gonna propel the dart out of the barrel. Like so. Okay, hold on. Maybe that was me. Okay. Lots of pop to that one. Trigger on mine is still a bit stiff. Wow, this dart is split. What is with these darts? I sure hope this is just a problem with mine. All of my darts are like really worn and used. Can't believe I'm doing this, but I do have a bunch of these cheap NERF Pro darts that are on clearance at every Target. Does load just fine in the magazines. Important to note, these are the slim Talon angled mags, so these do not work with normal Talon mag fed blasters. These are Venom Pro or Nightingale mags. All right, primed it back. Now I'm gonna hold the trigger, and when I push it forward, it should automatically fire. That's a little bit, there we go. Ugh. All right, so really quick size comparison. This is the Fire Rat. It is a very similar blaster that's been kicking around for a couple of years, a third-party mag and grip Springer pistol. And it's just ever so slightly more compact. Here is the Aeon Pro, and it absolutely, well, I'd say it dwarfs the Brute Pro, but it's honestly not that much bigger, to be fair. Still bigger though. Here is the Deuce Pro, another very similar blaster, only a revolver. And if I were to take the barrel extension off, it actually is about the same size, a little bit thicker. Here's the Desperado, a blaster you'd find on store shelves right next to it. And it's a little bit chunkier, but again, about the same size. And finally, we've got the NERF Pro Sender, which is a fair bit bigger, but if you own both, that'll give you an idea of the size comparison. I unfortunately can't find my Dart Zone Pro Mark II or 2.1 right now. I think the 2.1 is a little bit bigger than this, and I think the 2.0 is a little bit smaller than this. That's all well and good, but what about performance? Putting it over the chronograph, the Adventure Force Brute Pro did hit around 135 feet per second with its included Adventure Force Pro darts. The package does say it hits around 140 feet range, but range and velocity are not exactly 1-to-1 or anything like that. But when I swapped over to the Dart Zone Bamboo darts, I got a significant upgrade in velocity up to 160 plus feet per second, which is excellent. These shorter barrel, small plunger tube kings really do like those bamboo darts for the lighter weight and those rings on the dart that actually impart less friction in the barrel as it's moving through it. This does come at a cost of dart stability, especially in windier environments. I did test the integrated iron sights on the slide a little bit, and they weren't exactly awful, but they weren't great either. They're better than what you normally get because they're a different contrasting color, which makes it easier to line them up, but they're really just okay. I wouldn't rely on them all that much for long distance target acquisition. But when going up against the indoor range, I did put an optic on my Brute Pro to kind of help me find the target and kind of get a center. Not that it really mattered, because unfortunately I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this one. I can already see it coming, but the trigger pull on my version of this blaster, the sample that I got in, is so unbelievably terrible, unusable, awful, that I couldn't really center and hit the target multiple times. It was unusable, I would almost say. It is the heaviest trigger pull I have ever experienced on any of the off-the-shelf Pro blasters, and that makes it extremely difficult to have any kind of precision with this blaster. That doesn't even account for the fact that my trigger sticks. It's just the actual pullback weight to get the catch release it's just inconceivable. Like, I actually wonder if I can pull this with my pinky. It's bad. Now, of course, it's possible for me to open this thing up, maybe shave a little bit of plastic down, lube everything up if it's dry, and get that trigger to stop sticking, but I don't think that's gonna help the actual trigger pull that much. And while the Adventure Force Brute Pro is certainly serviceable, especially at close range, it was not great at being a precision tool. That being said, moving outside, I was really impressed with the distances I was getting compared to the velocity the chronograph was showing. Every single shot flat cleared 75 feet, with little angled shots hitting 100, and I'm guessing some deep angle shots would hit well over 130, possibly even into 150. So the velocity did kind of of equal the range on this one, which makes the Brute Pro certifiably tiny but mighty. And I was legitimately impressed. The plunger tube volume and barrel and everything on this is very well calculated from Dart Zone. So the accuracy with it is kind of bad to where you probably don't want to use it outside of anything other than close range. But if you really wanted to harass long range targets, then yeah, with a compact Brute Pro, you definitely can pose a threat. And there is one final mystery about this plug, which I assume is an easy way to do a spring swap. So let's see what happens here. Ah, there we go. Ah, that is really sticky. I wonder if that would have fixed my trigger issues, but yep, that is a quick spring. That is one of the smallest springs I have ever seen. The entire length, about 126.5 millimeters. The thickness, about 14.6 millimeters, and the coil thickness is 1.6 millimeters. This does convince me that Dart Zone will have spring replacements for this coming in the future. And I did use the calipers on the included B-car compared to one of the ones that I had from another Dart Zone blaster, and the one that was included with the Brute Pro is about 0.15 millimeters smaller, which is why it just is like a hot dog down a hallway. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I hope that isn't the standard. In fact, with most of this blaster, I hope that isn't the standard. I am well aware that I got an early review sample here and it might not be indicative of what's gonna be on store shelves, but this blaster, I hate to say it, is probably the worst Dart Zone product I have reviewed thus far. I can ignore the darts and I can ignore the B-car. That's something your mileage may vary on and other reviewers may have different experiences than I. I don't think the design or the price point on this blaster is all that attractive. This is in the same price point as the Adventure Force Aeon Pro X, a much more capable blaster at the cost of quite a bit larger footprint. But this isn't like a drawable, usable sidearm or anything like that. You can't use this thing one-handed. So it's a compact primary that has all of these issues that other blasters like the Aeon Pro X don't have. The prime is smooth, it's just really hard to get that last bit to lock up. There's a lot of pressure there. The trigger is awful. I don't know if that's just my sample, but it is it's awful. It's so heavy. Unless you're just a diehard fan of this platform or you really want this specific thing, then there's not a whole lot to offer here that something like the Aeon Pro X won't do 1,000 times better. The obvious spot where this blaster is going to shine is with modification, and that does leave me a bit excited because you can obviously just replace the slide, like take it off, put a bolt through there, have some arms connected to a pump action, maybe extend this out a little bit longer and have it guide itself on these rails. The actual draw isn't that far, so you can probably get away with it. That being said, is a pump action kit the right thing for this? I mean, my biggest issue is that slam fire. This is relatively smooth, at least pulling back. There's no spring tension pushing forward, and maybe that's just a little bit too tight on there. I can loosen those screws, lube it up, and might get a little bit smoother return, but the slam fire is not gonna be all that great. And that was my biggest want with this blaster, is a little compact mag dumper that you could just stash on your gear somewhere and always have on you. And without that, what exactly role does this blaster fill? I sincerely hope mine is the only one that has these problems, but I have no way of knowing at this point because not many people have their hands on them. That does make this thing almost impossible for me to recommend to pretty much anybody. If you need a sidearm, you've got the Outlaw, you've got the Venom Pro, heck, you've got the Desperado, which is also going to be on store shelves next to it, and with a little bit of modification, I think would blow this out of the water. With mods, however, and this thing's obviously built to have swappable springs and stuff like that, it could be a gem in the rough, and there may be a reason to pick this thing up and then spend probably 4 or 5 times this price on a pump action kit and a ton of time and effort installing it to get something truly unique. Because I think that's where this blaster's gonna shine, if you can smooth some of this stuff out. I know I'm gonna get flack for this opinion because it seems like I came right out of the gate not wanting to like this blaster, but it's a pistol. I am biased towards pistols. So when a pistol isn't that good, you know it's probably not that good. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if it misses its shelf date because this thing's half-baked. It needs a lot more time in the oven. And if you were excited for this blaster, you probably want it to be the best it could possibly be as well. And really, the only reason why I'm not being as harsh to this thing as I was with things like the Sender and the Torrent is because I know this is an early sample. It isn't out yet. Few people have their hands on it, as opposed to the Torrent and the Sender, which I had to buy off a store shelf, and those didn't work either. There may be a future for it with some work, but I am incapable of recommending this blaster at this point. Let's see what happens when it actually hits store shelves, though.